Hello all, welcome to Up the Poshcast, the Poshcast made by the fans for the fans. Grab yourself a drink, put your feet up and listen in. And by the way, there could be some strong language.
Should we start with the questions?
Come on then.
Yeah.
What has been our signing of the summer so far?
Ooh.
I think Nevitt.
I think I agree. Yeah, he's not a starter, but he's a great
Charlie,
signing.
You think we're going to sign 2 first-team centre-backs and not start Nevitt?
Fergie already said it in his interview. We definitely are.
We won't start Nevitt.
He played his way in during the season. I bet he'll be starting by the second half of this coming season, just like Ronnie did.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ronnie came in the Championship, didn't he? And he started his first game against Reading away, I think it was. And we lost 3-1. And then I don't think he dropped out after that, did he? So it will probably be a similar sort of thing. See the first month in, maybe similar to like Critchlow and then Josh Knight switching around after the Portsmouth game last year, is that you sort of have him there, you watch him, you let him get up to pace, because he is small, isn't he? Like, he's tall from what I've seen, but he definitely needs to maybe join me for a couple of dinners, I would say.
Yeah, he needs to grow into
Just
his own
to,
body, doesn't he? Like he's not built out yet.
I don't think he's not out of proportion though for what he is. I think that he is just skinny, like
Slight.
at the moment, because he's a young lad, isn't he?
Yeah.
To
How
be
old is
fair,
he?
Ronnie wasn't the most bulkiest when we signed him, and then he turned into, I wouldn't say a fat fucker, but he turned into a bit bulky, didn't he?
He filled out well.
He did.
Sean asked what 2 centre-backs we think we're going to sign. So do we think that we need a bigger, bulkier centre-back alongside Nevitt?
Yeah, I like the little and large idea. Like one that's really good on the ball, and it's like cultured, and then one that's like a bit more of just almost not like Knight and Edwards, but one that like maybe runs with the ball a bit more and is a lot more physical, is going to win headers. Next to someone who maybe isn't as physical, isn't as good in that department, but is just
Manny Fernandez
pinging it. Yeah, but he's not that good, Manny Fernandez. I'm sorry, he's not that good. He needs at least a loan, one season out on loan in League Two before he can play for us.
Just stop you there, Charlie, right? Stop you there. In all of your time following Peterborough, in fact, all of our time following Peterborough, who was the last player that we sent out on loan to improve, that come back and was a success for Peterborough United?
This is more about who we sent out on loan than anything, to be honest. We should have sent out Rick. I agree. We should send out Manny, but we just don't send out enough players on loan ever. The sort of players that we send out on loan.
When we do, over the years, who has come back and been a success for Peterborough?
No, but we only send players out on loan to actually get them out of the building because we don't want them at the club.
But you
we
just
don't
said sending them out to get a year experience or whatever.
That's what we should do, but that's not what we've done historically.
Charlie's saying in an ideal world that you'd send Manny Fernandez out. It was the same. I think we had this conversation on one of the spaces. Was I said that we should send Ricky out to League Two last season because I didn't think he'd had enough game time to be successful here, and you brought me up on the same point. It's not that we don't think sending players out on loan when they come back in our history that they're not successful for us. It's actually a loan for development isn't a route that we take. I'd much rather have sent Manny out on loan for a season and have them come back as a development season where they have minutes in professional football and then give them a season to try and break into the team. And if they don't, then we can make signings and adjust those positions rather than just let them sit and sort of rot on the bench and then send them out just to get them out the building, if that makes sense. Like development loans are so important.
So I'll answer my own question. None.
How about one for you? No, how about one for you? And answer me this: would Ajiboye have been a decent off-the-bench option last season were it not from going out on loan the year before, or would he have been a no?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good shout. That is, yeah.
I think
I like that. Yeah,
gone back out on.
He was on the bench. Was he a starter? Where is Ajiboye now?
But you can't have a squad of starters.
No, where is he now?
Alone.
Pardon?
And Ajiboye's one of them.
Where is he now?
Who, Ajiboye?
Yeah,
at home, I assume.
Back in his suitcase, ready to go to Spain tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
No, do you think Manny Fernandez will ever be a starter at Posh?
No.
we want to develop him to be a decent squad option, don't we? We don't want to develop him to be a first teamer because at the moment we don't think he's even good enough for the bench, right? I think that's
No,
what
I'm
we're
just.
saying.
It was a question. We've never had a successful player that has come back and been a first teamer successful for us. Fact.
But is that not a result of maybe Fergie thinking that his coaching is better than the options of sending them out on loan? Because obviously they were going to look to send him out, weren't they? Manny Fernandez and Charlie O'Connell at the same time. Charlie O'Connell's one basically went to shit at Woking and he only played once in 5 games.
Yep.
So they basically said, well, we're not sending Manny Fernandez out. Is that not just a confidence
I
from
really
Fergie
don't
that his
know.
coaching is going to be better
This is
than...
not just sorry, this is not just recent. This is always as long as I supported Peterborough. You know, we always sign players like, oh, they're one for the future, but they need a year out on loan to get better or whatever. And they come back and they're not very good. Who's the lad that we signed from Aldershot that's going to be the next big thing?
Oh,
the point
Kanu.
Eh? Yeah, I just can't.
Kanu.
Oh, okay.
He was going to be the next best thing. He said, but we needs a year on loan elsewhere to get up. He went on loan, come back. It doesn't work.
Yeah, but didn't he suffer from not having a position, basically? He was a striker, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden he came onto the pitch and he was playing at right wing back.
I was just going to say, I think fundamentally the problem is the players that we loan out aren't very good. So the players that show any ability at 18, 17, play in Posh's first team. Look at who we've had come through: Leo da Silva Lopez, Joel Newell in the olden days. And then you look at, you know, the more recent ones, Burrows, Edwards, Ricky J. Jones. They've all racked up loads of appearances because they're good enough to play in our first team. The ones that go out on loan are the ones that aren't good enough. So they're never going to come back and be good enough because, like, Manny Fernandez did go out on loan. He went to Barnet and he flopped. He was terrible there. So, you know, it's not going to work if you're not sending players with that ability out. If you sent Harrison Burrows out on loan, he will come back and he will use that as a developmental loan and improve and come into the first team. You've got to look at the caliber of player that's going out. If you look at who Posh have loaned out, none of them have gone on to better things than Peterborough. So
no, you're right. John, you're actually spot on there, to be fair. So going back to the original question is, we keep saying send these players out on loan, but the ones we want to send out on loan are the shit ones that we don't actually want playing for us. So what is the point of having them in the first place, rather than sending them out on loan?
Because you have to have a backup. At the drop of a hat, somebody could come in and say, right, I'm going to buy 5 of your best players, and then we need to have somebody to play on the pitch, don't we? And they are good enough to keep us in League One. Posh are not going to get relegated from League One ever in this current situation. Not happening. Not happening. Even if you took the 5 best players that we've got in the building now out of that team, Posh are not getting relegated because there is absolute cannon fodder in this league that gets promoted and sits there. The likes of Burton and like Cheltenham last year, Carlisle, Crawley. Crawley have got what now? 3 of their 11 that started at Wembley.
If that.
They are stuffed. Like, so you have to have them there to be a squad player to say, right, okay, well, what if you get 5 injuries? They're good enough to play 1 or 2 games. They're not just good enough for the long term, which is what we sort of found out when Poku got injured. Ajiboye, I thought, was really good for 30 minutes at the end of every game, similar to what Sean Batt and Mendes Lang was for Posh, but he's not good enough to start because he has one idea and it's to run at dead legs type thing. Similar to Ricky, some would say, is that Mothersill or Ricky flip, like, they can't play at the same time, but bringing either one on with 20, 30 minutes left always worked, it seemed like.
I got one last one to Dell's credit. Joe Tomlinson, 2 seasons at Swindon, didn't step up.
Look at him now, though. I mean,
in League 2?
In League 2.
So, yeah, but he's one of the most sought after left backs in League 2 now. I mean, like, he's got some serious caliber now, Joe Tomlinson. Charlie,
were you at Northampton away last year? Joe Tomlinson was not top of League 1 level, and he should have been having had loans away if the loan thing. I'm not playing devil's advocate here, but I get the point that Dell's making. The loans, far more examples of loans not making the player step up a level than actually making them step up.
I think the average signing that we sign them before they're good enough to play sort of top of League One. And we chuck them in at the deep end because we believe in their development. And then we sell them before their contract expires. With players like Tomlinson, let's say we got him in on a 3 or 4 year deal. if he's not developing at the club fast enough for us, which obviously he didn't, and we chuck him out on loan and he comes back and he's still not good enough, we're never going to give him a new contract, are we? So he can be a slow developer. He can go to MK and he might be a championship left back in the future. You never know. But
Anyway,
we were never ever going to give him a new deal. Never.
What other questions have we got?
Well, I like this one from Twiggy. Which departure has left the biggest hole for Posh in the last 5 years?
Yeah, I answered this when we were chatting before the show. Probably not the most popular answer, but I genuinely think after I went through a slew of keepers who were, I think, pretty good between, not all consecutively, but Bond, McGee, maybe not that order, maybe it was McGee, Bond, Bursic, Bender. And then until we got Steer, there was a hole. As much as I wanted Bilikapic to step up and the other players we had in between, I'd say Bender was the biggest, who left the biggest hole after leaving. That's my answer.
I think there's two options. I think there's only two. I think one of them is Sammy Smodics. If you're looking at the downgrades in the team, it'd obviously be easy to point to Ivan Toney, right, and say he's the best player that we've had. But we got Johnson Clark-Harris, who went and banged in won the Golden Boot twice. So I don't think you can necessarily say him. I think if you look at the downgrades in the squad, I think we probably would have gone up almost definitely if we had Sammy Smodics over Joel Randall. And the other one, controversially, is Peter Kioso. I think obviously we never really had a right back last season. Were we top of the league when he left or second in the league? Just beating Derby. We were looked on course for automatic promotion. And there is no doubt in that when Kioso left, things got worse. And I think what Posh are very good at is replacing players. So we've obviously had some outstanding talents over those times in terms of like Dembele, but you would say, Mason Clark and Poku have probably replaced Dembele. Jack Taylor was quickly replaced by Archie Collins. So in the last 5 years, we've had some brilliant players, but I think we're very, very good at replacing them. And I think the only two that we probably haven't are Smodics and Kioso.
I think Smodics, well, just to play devil's advocate here, wasn't Ephron Mason-Clark signed as Smodics' replacement? Obviously, McCann didn't want another number 10, but he wanted Mason-Clark was the player that, when we signed him, he was announced as the replacement for Smodics in terms of the Smodics fee was used to buy.
I mean, they don't play similarly. It turned out that they're not very stylistically similar. He's far more similar to a Dembele than he ever was a Smodics. I think if you were looking to put Smodics in the team last season, you'd put him in for Joel Randall, wouldn't you? That was his position, and that's where you would have played him. So, although that might have been by design, I don't think you could ever say Mason Clark was a Smodics replacement on the pitch.
I think if you look at the reason why we didn't get promoted in the 22-23 season, it's because of all the points we dropped at the first half when McCann was in charge. And if you remember our performances, it was very much Jono up top isolated. The wingers were far too wide. He weren't getting the service. And I think if we had Smodics in that team instead of Mason Clark, that wouldn't have been the case. So I wonder if McCann would have won more points when he was in charge and we would have actually gone up automatically in the 22-23 season.
I can't really think of anybody. Smodics, yeah, he left us. He was a decent player, but you say we had a replacement for him, so it wasn't really a big hole. Jono going, I don't think that left a big hole because he wasn't playing towards the end of the season anyway, and we was doing all right without him. Kioso, I wouldn't say a massive hole. He changed the dynamics of how we played because obviously when he was playing, we was more sort of a pushy. We brought Matey in, Katongo, who started off a little bit slow, but he was by far a better defender than Kioso. I can't really think of any.
I think I'm on the Kioso team. I think a lot of the stuff that happened that sort of unraveled our automatic promotion push was very avoidable if we'd had Kioso, not only the player on the pitch, but also Kioso, the leader, the character on the pitch to try and fight, to try and tell, Michael Olikigbe, Exeter away to calm down and give him a bit more cover on that right-hand side, to get the troops back going at Oxford away after we conceded a few really sloppy goals and hopefully get us back on track. I'm not saying it all would have been avoided, but I think...
No, but I think, like you're saying, Kioso is a nicer version of what you would maybe say a bit of a shithouse, in that team last season was very nice. Like, they were nice on the eye, but there was no, grudge about them, I would say. None of them were nasty, but Kioso didn't have like proper nastiness, like like a Norburn or like Anthony Grant, but he had the ability to do something that would whip up the crowd and go, right, yeah, this is it, let's get it together. I like Dale said, I don't rate Kioso so much footballing wise. I prefer watching Katongo, but I think
great cheerleader, as you call him.
Yeah, it's a cheerleader, is what it is, and it's something that gets the players up and gets the crowd up. Like, you don't know what Kioso did at the changing room. We conceded after 17 seconds at Derby, and then we ended up winning with like 17 seconds left in that game. Like, you don't know what happened in the changing room type thing. And actually, I think it was Kioso came off and we'd scored 2 goals. So footballing wise, like, yes, he brought something, and like we discussed yesterday, John, didn't we? He said the reason that Mason Clark sort of dropped off in the second half of the season is because everything was on the left side. And actually there was so much pressure on him to do something because there was nothing on the right-hand side, because Katonga wasn't as good as attacking. But it's just finding that balance, isn't it? And I do agree that, like you said, Charlie, is that he had that extra bit about him, which I think we're going to miss this season even more.
This is a Scotty question, so you'll have to bear with me.
Moving on.
You think we're going to see why we need Langstaff? That is the missing piece of the puzzle that would take us up. Why would we not sign a 27-year-old who's in his prime? Is a perfect replacement for JCH. We've signed a experienced GK, so why not a striker?
I'll answer that question. A perfect replacement for JCH. Well, JCH sat on a bench most of the season last year, so why would you want somebody to sit on a bench? All right, what's the next question?
No, come on. We've not replaced his goals, have we? Whether or not you like the way he played football, or whether it suits our system, his goals have not been
the most goals in the league last season.
Yeah, but you're relying on everyone chipping in then. It's not the Peterborough way, is it? The Peterborough way is you get the ball in the box, you give the striker service, and your striker will win the golden boot.
Maybe the Peterborough way
is Ricky or Mothersill capable of doing that, or do we need to sign a more proven...
That was Langstaff for the one at Notts County.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd sign him.
So I think from my perspective, I think let's just talk about in a wider perspective, I guess. Like, Langstaff himself is probably going to go to the Championship, so I don't think he was really in our ballpark to get this summer. However, I think there is a genuine question over whether Posh should sign a new number 9, and I think the answer to that is probably yes. Ricky and Mothersill are our options to play up there at the minute, and as much as I really like both of them, and I think they're both technically, well, Ricky's not technically excellent, but Mothersill is technically excellent, and Ricky definitely has his strengths in terms of his pace and physicality. I don't know either of them are going to get you 20, 25 goals. And I think one thing people are forgetting about is, yeah, we were the top scorers last season, but we also have lost Mason Clark, who contributed a hell of a lot of goals to that total. So you take out Mason Clark and Clark Harris, and that's 30 goals last season gone, that we quickly have to replace this summer. And I'm not sure we've done that yet. Whether Con Clark can make the step up and start scoring a bit more from the 10 role, I don't know, but I don't see him as a natural number 9. So I'm a bit worried that Fergie said he wants 4 signings and none of them are a centre forward, because I think getting a goal scoring number 9 is kind of imperative this year. And I think it could halt our season again if we don't have one. Because let's face it, if we had a goal scorer in the team that had Ricky's qualities last season, I think we probably would have gone up. I think Fergie alluded to that in terms of how many chances we created in the XG and the touches in the box. But we missed too many chances, which was... I'm not sure one summer of coaching Ricky with Craven Cale-Smith is going to solve that. So I think we do need another striker, whether that's Langstaff or somebody else. Yeah, let's go and get one.
I'm looking forward to Mothersill, because I actually think Mothersill is quite a good technical player. Good pre-season with us. I actually think he's going to be the star for us, if I'm honest.
How many did he end up with last season? I mean, it was only a handful, wasn't it? Like, let me get the stats up. He ended up with 6 goals. Considering how little he actually played, like, I don't think that's a bad tally at all. And when you look at some of the performances, like, I just remember Blackpool away when he had, 3 Blackpool players just centre half, just on absolute skates the entire night. Skill, pace, and then he obviously scored a great goal. He didn't have the consistency, and he certainly didn't have the fitness last season. But if he gets a really good pre-season, as Dale said, there's no reason why he couldn't go and win the Golden Boot, in my opinion.
I was going back to on Ricky and whether Craig McHale-Smith's effects on him could turn him into a great striker. Just 2 quick comments. One is, all got to remember, Craig McHale-Smith was not that great until he suddenly was. It was Aaron McLean who was the outright great striker in those League 2 and League 1 seasons. And Craig McHale-Smith did okay in the Championship 09-10 and then came back and smashed it the year after in League 1, obviously, earning his move to Brighton. So point is, players can improve. And on that, extending from that, Ricky doesn't need to improve 5% in all areas of his game. He needs to improve 10% in just one single area, and that is finishing. He created plenty of chances. Fine, he isn't as neat and tidy as Mother Seal is. He doesn't necessarily need to be an absolutely fantastic League 1 striker and stop, shooting directly at the keeper or setting his body in a bad position for when he shoots. I think it was Port Vale at home. He had 2 one-on-ones, right? Missed both of them because he was just running directly at the keeper. And that is a sort of thing that I think with some coaching from Craig McHale-Smith, he could well step up this coming season.
His strength was just chasing, which is the same as what Ricky does. He chases and chases, but he gets himself in that position. He used to get himself in that position to score. Whereas once Ricky gets into that position, he's like, oh, when he's got to think about what he's got to do is when it don't happen. But anyway, I don't want to give him a clean slate ready for the season. But I would start with Mothersill over Ricky.
If Ricky's even here, there's very heavy rumours from credible sources that he may not be.
I just wonder if Fergie's decided that he wants one of them and a proven goal scorer, and one he's chosen to keep out of Jones and Mothersill is Mothersill. And he might not be transfer listed, but I wonder if we've sort of said to some clubs, look, if you put a bid in for Jones, we will let him go.
It's 100% profit, isn't it? Regardless of what he goes for. And then he leaves on. People will say that he had a terrible season, but as I've championed many a time, Jonson Clarke-Harris wasn't scoring bags full of goals when he was 21 years old and 22 years old. He didn't start scoring goals until he was 26, 27. And I think, like Harry said, if Ricky can improve 10% on his finishing every season for the next 5 seasons, he will then score 25 goals a season, because he has the one thing or 2 things that petrify defenders at any level, and that is unpredictability, because I don't think he knows what he's going to do with the ball sometimes, and just pace, just raw pace. And yes, it's only Nathan Thompson, but there was that moment at Stevenage away where he basically did like a Gareth Bale run off the pitch. Nathan Thompson scrambling on the floor, trying to keep up with him, and ends up sat on his ass, basically thinking, I'm done for here. And that's an experienced defender who people would have probably been calling for at the start of the last season, saying that's what we're missing an experienced defender. He's been sat down by somebody that ultimately did offer something and probably was part of the reason that we scored as many goals as we did. If we could have maybe scored more with a proper goal scorer, who knows?
I think if Ricky does go, that will be the departure that upsets me the most. Not in terms of his ability, but obviously Burrows and Edwards are currently better players than him. But I think they both got to a stage now where they've probably outgrown Peterborough. I think Burrows did so well last season that he's probably deserving of a championship move. Whereas with Ricky, I feel like Ashley and Harry summed it up perfectly. His ceiling is so high. I know people can't see it because sometimes he looks a bit clumsy at the minute and his finishing isn't great. But if he polishes up his game, like you say, 10%, he will be one hell of a threat, even at championship level, because of that pace. People just can't keep up with him. It is genuinely undefendable. So I will be gutted to see him leave, because I'm waiting for him to have that season where he just bursts through the ceiling and he does start banging them in the net. But I think it's a tough ask to go from 9 league goals to 25 league goals in one summer, which is why I'd still be using him sort of as a left winger at the minute and a rotational option probably with Mothersill, and then get a proper £1 million number 9 in that's going to bang in 20, 25 goals. That would be my theory.
I think he scores more goals from left wing than if he does a striker. Like you said, is that when he's running through on goal down the middle, he sort of has that tunnel vision. When he's off the left, he can see the game opening up in front of him. I think that's my view, at least.
I've got a follow-on question then, based on that. So we've signed Con Clark and we've signed Odo. I've not really seen much of either of them. John, you said that Con Clark's more of a 10, so you think he's probably going to be competing with Randall. is Odo Mason Clark's replacement on the left, or is Jones or even Mothersill going to be playing on the left? Do you think?
Is that directed at me?
Well, open.
I've championed Ricky on the left for multiple years now. I think that's his position. Like Ashley says, I just think all his good work comes in off that left flank, and I just think it plays to his key strengths so much better than playing him as a 9 because he can't play back to goal very well. So my idea again is to get Ricky out on the left and get a striker, but I guess Mothersill looks a more natural 9 than Ricky. I personally think at the minute I would have Mothersill over Ricky as a striker. I think he's better in the box. His movement's slightly better than Ricky's, and just in general, I think he links the play a little bit better than Ricky does. So I see Odo as an impact sub initially, but I think pre-season is going to be quite big for him because he obviously had a very good back end of the season in League Two. And I think he's one of those players that if he does rip it up in pre-season, he could well find himself in the starting lineup because the guys in the front 4 can all play multiple different positions. You even look at someone like Poku, he could go in at the 10 role and we bring in somebody else on the right wing. So there's a lot of them that can play multiple positions. So those spots, I think, are definitely not set in stone at this point. And pre-season is going to be very interesting for numerous players, I think, to see sort of the standard because I'm not convinced we've got our front 4 set in stone for that first game of the season against Huddersfield yet.
Yeah, I think Odo is a player that, I mean, Darragh said when he announced him that it was his number 1 target to replace Ephron Mason-Clark from January. So I guess what we can read into that is that he probably does feel that Odo's ready to step up. I think Odo, obviously, they're quite similar, Mason-Clark and Poku, in start of play anyway. But Odo's very similar to Poku in terms of he's a dribbler. He's going to try and fake shots, cutting in from the wing and trying to, do all the techers, as they say. He's definitely a box of tricks more than anything, I think. And he's going to, again, that sort of thing that terrifies defenders of unpredictability. With Odo, Poku, and either Ricky or Mothersill, we are going to be really, really hard to prepare for a defender because you don't know what you're going to be up against.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
I've got one. What do you guys think is going to be Ronnie's trajectory now he's gone to Southampton? Is he going to get any game time in the Premier League next season, or is he going to have a year of development before they make a decision on that?
I think he'll play in the Premier League. I think I think there might be a loan, especially with I think Greaves is looking for a Premier League move away from Hull. So I think Hull are going to need replacements, and we've seen that Hull have got that pull factor. But I can't see a world where Ronnie Edwards doesn't play Premier League football this season alongside Taylor Harwood-Bellis in that Saints back line. On top of that, I think give it 2 years, and I think genuinely there'll be a contention for an England place. I think he's that good.
I don't think he plays in the back line. I think he's going to become a centre defensive midfielder very quickly under Russell Martin.
Sorry, controversially, I don't care. He ain't a Peterborough player. What relevance have you got to me?
Because if he plays well, we'll get a massive sell-on.
Okay, let's move on from that then. So what benefit will I get from the sell-on?
We'll go
More
and
players.
get a new stadium.
Like new stadium? Oh, that's
Yeah.
a bit harsh, that is. Now, to be fair, I'm not really bothered. If he does well, fair play. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Like Tony went, I wasn't really bothered. I think the last Peterborough player that I was really, really upset about leaving was Adam Drury. Literally, I was working in London, and this is before the internet and all that sort of stuff. I actually heard it on the radio, and I rang up Peterborough United and asked them if it was true. I was generally gutted, but there we go. Apart from that, I have players come, players go. If they do well, after they leave, they do well. We move on. As I said, I don't really follow other teams' leagues. So good luck to him, but I'm not bothered.
But you don't think that he leaves a hole in the back 4 that we need to replace?
Oh, 100%, because he's a League One player.
Would you not have your heart warmed a little bit, Dale, by seeing Ronnie Edwards in an England shirt stepping onto the Wembley turf? Would that not make you feel happy, or do you just not genuinely not care?
Okay, is it any different from Tony playing for England?
I think I have more of an emotional attachment to Ronnie than I did to Ivan Toney, because I think Tony kind of joined us as a dejected player who hadn't really had the best start, but he was a player that had been at a Premier League club, a player that had been at other clubs in the EFL. Ronnie came to us as like a little, like, I don't know, like a very unpolished player.
A little Charlie.
And we're the one that we're the club that took him from, you know, being a completely unpolished gem to actually turning him into what he is now, which is a really, really good footballer.
Okay,
How about this? We've signed Ronnie as, like Charlie said, he was a kid from non-league, wasn't he? Let's be honest. And we've developed him to the point where he's gone to the Premier League, and if he gets game time and plays for England in the next year, that was us that's developed him. No one else, just us. We then have that reputation of not only developing strikers, which we've already got, but all players on the field. It will have a massive benefit on everything in the future. Loan players from Man City, like Darragh keeps alluding to, all these youngsters like Nevitt was linked to Championship clubs. I think he chose Posh because of our reputation of developing players. And the more we do it, the better talents we're going to get through the door.
I agree with Lods. I think Nevitt chose us because of he's seen Ronnie and he's seen what we've done with Ronnie, and he sees what we can do with and he sees what we can do with players at this level, and the development that we can give them and the ability to allow them to step up. You know, I think that's a massive factor as to why Nevitt chose us. And I think we're seeing a trend now where a lot of non-league talents are choosing us. Con Clark's another one. He chose us over the other teams that he was linked with because we've got that ability to develop. So if Ronnie goes and plays for England, which I've got no doubt in my mind that he will, we're going to increase that reputation further, and allow us to sign players that we shouldn't be able to sign just because of our reputation of developing them and bringing them up to a Premier League level.
No, I get that. We've been doing that for years. To be fair, Max, signing non-league gems. Some of them have worked, some of them haven't. So yeah, no, I get that, and you know, good luck to that. I don't wish him bad. I'm not over bothered if he does well or not.
I'm just going to temper expectations around Ronnie. I think he's obviously a brilliant player and he's very good on the ball, but I do wonder if the limitations in his game that are not anything really that he can help in terms of his size are going to stop him playing at that very elite England level. I think if you look at the top of the game now, it's very much based around physicality. You look at Arsenal's two centre-backs, Gabriel and Saliba. You look at Man City's two centre-backs, Akanji, Stones, Diaz.
Gabriel and Ronnie Edwards are the same height.
That's all. That's awful because we're playing. Mark Gay's been our best defender this tournament. If we're talking about England as a whole,
he's a physical freak. Ronnie isn't that. Ronnie is not anywhere near that. He's not that. He's never going to be. Look how built Gabriel and Guy play. They're both so aggressive. I think it was Ivan Toney talking about the strongest player in the England squad, and he picked Mark Guy. Ronnie's nowhere near that. Whether he can get in the gym and do that, I don't know. But you look at someone like Ben White, who I think is closer stylistically to Ronnie Edwards. He went to the top level and he's now playing right back because he's been shifted out there because he's not physical enough to play centre back. I think there's such a demand for physicality right at the top of and I'm talking the top elite talents of the English game, that that's where I think Ronnie will probably fall to become a mid-table Premier League centre-back. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a mid-table Premier League player. You're still a brilliant player. I just want to temper expectation. I'm not sure I see a route necessarily into England's first team for him, despite his technical ability, which I think he probably could get there with.
To be fair, I thought you were trying to say that Ronnie was only ever going to be like a championship level player. I was just going to say, none of us thought Szmodic would go on to be the top hero of the championship. Very few, and I bet there's no receipts for any of the Posh fans saying they thought Tony would play for England. Sometimes when you get elite level coaching, regardless of limitations, Tony couldn't dribble when he was here. Tony couldn't run with the ball well at all when he was here. And yet Now look at him. He's not running round players, but he holds onto the ball very well at his feet in a way that he didn't previously. And I see maybe going to the upside here with Premier League level coaching around him.
I think he's going to struggle getting into this Southampton team. They've got a lot of defenders. I've just looked it up now. So Jack Stevens is their captain, so he's going to play, isn't he? You got Harwood Bellis, who's a bigger talent than Ronnie, in my opinion. You got Coletta Carr, Bednarek, Nathan Wood, and Ronnie.
Have they still got Bella Kotchap as well, or is he coming back?
There's a lot of loan players that have gone out that I think they're just looking to ship. Like Bella Kotchap, Lianco, they're all looking to ship, I think.
Do you honestly think he's going to get into Southampton's first team playing defensive midfield?
To be fair, in fairness to Ash, if they lose Flynn Downs, I genuinely think, I don't think they've signed him on a permanent yet. I genuinely think there is a pocket there for Ronnie Edwards to move into if that's how Russell Martin sees it. But I don't think Russell Martin sees Ronnie Edwards that sort of player. I think he sees him as a progressive ball carrying centre half, which is something that they've lacked when they've got the physical size of Taylor Harwood-Bellis and Jack Stevens in the back two. They've lacked that ball carrying ability.
So those two, Max, that you've just mentioned, they are big, tall defenders, yeah?
Yes.
Is that what we're saying? Yeah. What's to say that Southampton don't change their system? And I'm not saying that they're going to do this to fit Ronnie in, but we played a back 5/3 in the Championship, didn't we, to fit Ronnie in, because we wanted Ronnie to play the ball out from the back alongside Beavers and Kent. Is that not an option for them? Because they're not going to be able to play and win every game, are they?
So wait, are you saying Ronnie to go into the back three or Ronnie to go into midfield?
Either or. Is that what, like?
Yeah,
the reason that we played a back 5 in the Championship was to fit Ronnie in the middle of Beavers and Frankie Kent.
I'm not being funny. Ronnie is not that special in terms of Premier League level ball playing. Most of the even Jack Stevens will have a close ball playing ability to Ronnie Edwards right now. Like, he's going into a team where everybody has to be technical. So yeah, I think. Listen, I think he'll do well, but I think
the best thing for Ronnie Edwards is that Southampton get relegated next season, and then he's in a Championship team. He then gets a solid year. He will play in the Championship. There's no arguments of that. And he builds himself, and then they come straight back up, and then he's then a starter in the Premier League after 2 seasons of coaching at that level.
So Brian's asked, what position in the league do you see Posh finishing? I assume he means coming season.
Yeah, 28-29 season. I think we're going to finish 13.
I am going to say for now, I'm going to go 9th, and I will report back after 5 preseason games whether I think we're doomed or whether I think we're going to win the league.
Okay, I'll go then. Last season, I actually thought we'd finish in the bottom half. How wrong was I? You know, we had a new team, young kids and whatever. I thought we would struggle. This year, I think obviously because we've lost quite the nuclear of our team. Obviously, Burrows will be going as well. That'll be the whole back line gone. I'm going to go for a conservative 12th.
I think we're winning it.
You're winning it.
Sorry, Harry, but there is no way we don't win the league. I'm very confident that we're going to win the league next season. And I know right now the squad doesn't look in good shape, but the fact that we've got as much money as we do to spend on transfers now with the players that we sold. And, we seem to have a little bit of aura in the transfer market now. We seem to have a bit of pulling power. I reckon.
We don't have money.
We do have
We've
money.
got debt. We've got
debt. Everyone has debt. I mean, every football club has debt. We do have debt, but also we've got 4 million for Mason Clark, half of 3 million, so 1.5 million for Ronnie, and I reckon we'll probably even be getting add-ons as we speak. I reckon there'll be some sort of stupid add-on, which is every day he reports to training is 50 grand straight to D-Mac's pocket. We'll have some good add-ons in that deal.
Who the fuck invited Charlie on?
Charlie, you do know this is going public, right? We are uploading this so people can watch it.
What is wrong with a bit of optimism? We've been very downbeat today about like,
I'm saying that we
Ronnie's
get a
not gonna-
pound every
Ronnie's
time
not
that Ronnie
gonna win
takes
the
a breath.
league. There'll be something in the. There'll be something in there. There will 100% be something in there because when you look at it, right, we need to get out of this small-minded mindset that we're not going to win the league. We were in it last summer. I remember Harry on Up the Posh Bases. And I can't be bothered to go back and listen to it. I'm not going to lie to you. But if I could, I would find Harry saying he was going to do something. He would do something if we were in the playoffs by this time next year. We weren't only in the playoffs. We won the cup and we should have been automatically promoted. We are going to, next season is our time. I'm telling you, we're winning the league.
I did say that we finished 15th, and I then halfway through the season predicted we finished 8th, and I was obviously wrong both times. We are not winning the league. I think that this is a bigger retooling than last year was, but Fergie always does somehow manage to do it. I'm going to go with 6th.
I'm as confident as Charlie, but I think we're never going to win the league still, like you say, Harry. I believe in
League 2 or League 1, right? Have we ever won the league ever?
I think once in our history. I might be wrong.
We won League 2 or Division 4 back in the day.
Before internet was
born, wasn't it? Yeah.
And didn't we also win it another time that when got demoted because of financial irregulations or something? Irregulations.
Did we win it when we were like Peterborough and Fletton Alliance?
Yeah, well, whatever.
I believe in our recruitment policy. I believe in Fergie, and I think we'll finish in the playoffs, probably about 4th.
About 4th or 4th?
Yeah. Back to what I said. I can't get excited until I've seen these people play football. So I am going to go with a conservative 9th, and I will report back when we've had pre-season to tell you all that we're going to win the league.
I've deliberately kept quiet because I think anyone asking or answering this question before we know anything about what the squad's going to look like is very, very silly.
John, have a bit of fun, man. Just answer the question.
Yeah,
just like
John.
have a bit of
Number
fun.
1 to 24. 1 to 24. Pick a number.
Just say a number, John. Go on.
It's not. I'm not. I'm. What are we?
Mute him and move on.
John,
you're basically saying that you don't trust the recruitment.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't know how many holes we're going to have filled. I don't know who we're going to sign. I'll get back to it.
You don't trust the recruitment.
You are saying you don't trust the recruitment. Then that's exactly what you're saying.
If you had faith, you'd go, all right, well, we've been told we're signing players in these positions, so we're going to have 2 players per position. I have faith that DMAC and Barry Fry will get it done and sign good players. Done. You'd be saying we're winning the division. You'd be all over it, but you don't. You're scared. You're nervous.
That's called acting blind faith, Charlie. And as you grow up a little bit, you'll learn that that's a very silly way to approach life, I'm afraid.
I'm going to agree with Ash. I think we're going to finish 9th. I said we're finishing the playoffs, but I think I need to see how this team plays. So I said 9th last season and then changed my mind. So I'm going to say 9th this season, and I'll also change my mind after I've seen us play some preseason games. And it'll probably end up being about 5th or 4th.
Nice.
Excellent. Superb. Well, let's come back tail end of the season, see where we all are, see who's the closest, and we'll go from there.
What are the listeners thinking as well? What do the listeners think we're going to be finishing this season?
All right, should we call that a day?
Yes.
Excellent.
Great.
Up the posh.
Up the posh.
Up the podcast.
Up the podcast.
Up the fucking posh.
Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Up the Poshcast. Let us know your feedback. Give us any ideas for topics you would like to discuss or any questions you'd like us to answer. Up the Poshcast.